Ronan knew the family meeting was a coup the moment the front doors locked behind Elena. The Kearney estate felt different from the dinner they had attended days earlier. No music, no servants moving through the halls, no fire warming the limestone foyer. Only the dry smell of polished wood, the soft ticking of an antique clock, and 12 senior members of the Kearney organization waiting around the long dining table beneath cold chandelier light. Seamus stood beside Ronan's father, Declan Kearney, with a leather folder open in front of him. "She doesn't belong here," Seamus said. Ronan removed Elena's coat and placed it over the back of the chair beside his. Neither did half the money she froze tonight, apparently. No one laughed. Elena sat without being invited. Ronan took the chair next to her. Seamus looked around the table. 27 accounts inaccessible. Contracts stalled. Vale's operation short of liquidity less than 48 hours before Election Day. Elena rested both hands on the table. "Interesting that you know exactly which account stopped." Seamus ignored her. "This family is bleeding because Ronan chose an outsider over his own people." Ronan leaned back. "My own people framed her for Patrick's death." A murmur moved around the table. Declan Kearney struck one finger against the wood. "Enough." Ronan looked toward his father. "Did you know?" Declan's eyes hardened. "Know what?" "That Seamus used Black Harbor to move political money." Seamus closed the folder. "This is exactly the problem. She has him repeating accusations he can't prove." Elena reached into her bag. 3 men around the table immediately shifted. Ronan's hand touched her wrist once, not stopping her, only letting her know he saw them. She removed a tablet and placed it flat on the wood. "Then don't believe us." She opened the live account dashboard. 27 amber holds glowed across the screen. "These accounts require executive verification before midnight. Whoever controls them will have to identify themselves to keep the network alive." Seamus's face remained still. Elena turned the tablet toward the room. "So nobody here needs to choose between Ronan and me. Wait 90 minutes. See who moves." A younger Kearney captain nodded. Seamus saw it. "No." He opened the leather folder and withdrew a prepared document. Ronan's name appeared across the first page. "We are not giving a hostile accountant 90 minutes to dismantle what generations built." Ronan's chair scraped softly against the floor as he stood. "What is that?" His father answered. "A vote." Elena looked from one face to another. No one seemed surprised. Seamus had prepared this before they arrived. "Temporary removal of your executive authority," Declan continued. "Pending review of your judgment and loyalty." Ronan stared at his father. "My loyalty?" Seamus pointed at Elena. "You canceled retaliation after our properties were attacked. You protected her father using family resources. You removed Doyle. You turned against Walsh. You exposed internal operations to Belandi contacts. Tonight you crippled accounts tied to our political future." "She crippled them," Ronan said. "With my approval." Elena turned sharply toward him. He had just placed every consequence on himself. Seamus smiled. "Thank you for clarifying." Ballots moved around the table. No shouting followed. No dramatic threats. Just pins scratching paper, glasses touching wood, and Ronan standing beside Elena while the organization he had been raised to inherit quietly decided whether he still belonged to it. Declan counted the votes himself. 8 in favor, 3 against, 1 abstention. He removed a black access card from his pocket and held out his hand. "Your credentials." Ronan looked at the card clipped inside his jacket. It opened the Kearney offices, garages, accounts, properties, every locked door he had grown up believing would someday be his. Elena whispered, "You don't have to do this." Ronan removed it. Seamus watched closely. "Give us Vitale," he said. "Restore Black Harbor before midnight, and this vote disappears." Ronan looked at Elena. Weeks earlier, he had entered her apartment willing to trade her life for revenge. Now the entire empire waiting for him stood on the opposite side of that choice. He placed the access card on the table and slid it toward his father. "Keep it." Seamus's smile vanished. Ronan took Elena's coat from the chair and held it open for her. "You're walking away from everything," Declan said. Ronan waited until Elena was beside him before answering. No, his hand settled briefly against the small of her back as the locked doors were opened. "I'm walking away with the one person this family taught me to kill because she was dangerous to the truth." He looked once at Seamus over his shoulder. "Turns out you were right about her." The first thing Ronan lost was the car. They had barely reached the Kearney estate driveway when the black sedan refused to unlock, its mirrors folding inward as a remote command disabled the vehicle. Cold wind swept across the gravel, carrying the smell of wet leaves and chimney smoke from the house behind them. Elena looked at the dark screen of Ronan's phone. Your father? Seamus. Ronan tried another command. Access revoked flashed across the display. Then his banking app closed. His secure contacts vanished. The encrypted Kearney network disconnected. One privilege after another disappeared while they stood beneath the yellow driveway lamps. Elena watched his face. How much did they take? Ronan slipped the useless phone into his coat. Anything tied to the organization. Properties? Most. Accounts. The operational ones. Men. Ronan looked toward the security gate, where two guards who had known him for years deliberately avoided his eyes. We'll find out. Headlights appeared behind them. A second sedan stopped 10 feet away, and Seamus stepped out with two senior captains. He carried Ronan's black access card between two fingers. You left before we finished. Ronan moved slightly in front of Elena. She immediately stepped beside him. Seamus noticed. Still doing that? Elena asked. Apparently. Seamus held up the card. One decision puts everything back. Ronan stared at it. We already had this conversation. No. At the table, you were angry. Seamus's shoes crunched across the gravel. Now you understand the cost. He gestured toward the dead sedan, the locked gates, the men who would no longer answer Ronan's calls. Your crews are reassigned. Your office is sealed. Your accounts are restricted. By morning, every business partner in Chicago will know you no longer speak for the Kearneys. Elena's hands disappeared into her coat pockets against the cold. And what buys it back? Seamus looked directly at her. You. Ronan's expression changed by almost nothing. Be specific. Elena comes inside. She gives us the Black Harbor access, the copies, the account structure, everything she used tonight. Seamus stepped closer. You walk away from her. By midnight, your authority is restored. Elena turned toward Ronan. Don't answer yet. Seamus smiled. Smart woman. I wasn't talking to you. Elena faced Ronan fully. This isn't an apartment anymore. It isn't a safe house. This is everything you were raised for. Ronan's gaze stayed on her. I know. Then actually think. I have. She shook her head. For more than 3 seconds. Elena, you can't keep losing pieces of your life every time somebody threatens me. Ronan stepped closer, lowering his voice. They aren't taking pieces because of you. They're taking them because I stopped obeying. Seamus interrupted. Call it whatever makes you feel noble. The offer expires at midnight. He extended the access card. Ronan looked at the object that had opened every Kearney door since he was 21. Then he took it. Elena's breath caught. Seamus relaxed. Good. Ronan turned the card over once in his hand. A green security light blinked at one corner, waiting to be reactivated. Then he walked to the wrought iron gate, pushed the card through the narrow bars, and let it fall into the drainage channel on the other side. Plastic struck metal, bounced once, and disappeared into black water. Nobody spoke. Ronan turned back. Now you can stop offering it. Seamus's face hardened. You think she's worth becoming nobody? Ronan looked at Elena. The woman he had once hunted because killing her had seemed easier than questioning his own family now stood beside him with no weapon, no organization, and no promise that she would ever forgive everything he had done. I know exactly who I am without the card. Seamus stepped toward him. And when she leaves? Elena answered first. Then that will be my choice too. Ronan's eyes moved to hers. Seamus looked between them, then returned to his sedan. Midnight, he said before getting inside. After that, there's no crown waiting for you. The cars pulled away, leaving Ronan and Elena outside the gates with no vehicle, no security detail, and almost none of the power that had once made his name dangerous. Elena touched his hand. You really threw it away. Ronan closed his fingers around hers. No. He started walking toward the road, taking her with him. I finally found something I wouldn't trade for it. By 1:14 a.m., Ronan Kearney had exactly 4 people left willing to answer his calls, and Elena was the only one who had never belonged to him in the first place. Claire's bakery was closed below them, its ovens cooling with soft metallic ticks while the upstairs apartment smelled of flour, strong coffee, and damp wool from their coats. Ronan stood at the narrow kitchen counter with a prepaid phone, calling numbers from memory because the Kearney network had erased his contacts. The first man declined. The second never answered. The third said, "I have a family," and hung up. Ronan placed the phone down without comment. Elena watched him roll his sleeves above his tattooed forearms and dial again. "You can stop," she said. "Not yet. You've been doing this for an hour." That's usually how finding out who's loyal works. The fourth call connected. An older driver named Brendan agreed immediately. Two more followed. A warehouse supervisor Ronan had once protected from Seamus, and a former security specialist who had refused Walsh's orders after the safe house attack. 3 people. For if Claire counted. Ronan stared at the names written on a paper napkin. Weeks ago, he had commanded crews across Chicago. Now his organization fit beneath a coffee cup. Elena pulled the napkin toward herself. "Good." Ronan gave her a look. "Good. Now nobody can hide behind your name." She crossed to the table where the photograph of the death list sat beside her laptop. "Everyone's still standing with you chose to. 3 people won't stop Seamus. Neither did 300 when half of them were reporting to him." That landed. Ronan leaned over the table. "Black Harbor has until midnight tomorrow before the frozen accounts move into expanded review. Vale has election day after that. We're outnumbered, cut off from Kearney properties, and Seamus knows most of my habits." Elena tapped the center of his chest with one finger. "Then stop fighting like the air he trained." Ronan caught her hand, not hard, and held it there. "What do I fight like instead?" "Like a man with nothing left to protect except what he actually chose." His gaze held hers for a beat too long. Before either spoke, headlights swept across the alley below. Ronan released her and moved to the window. 2 black SUVs stopped beside the bakery. "Those aren't Claire's." Elena shut the laptop and grabbed the encrypted drive. Ronan killed the apartment lights. Boots hit pavement below. Someone tried the bakery's rear door. Once. Twice. Then a voice called upward through the alley. "Ronan, your father sent us." He opened the window 2 inches. Cold air carried the smell of rain and diesel into the room. "Then tell him to come himself. We're not here for you." Ronan looked at Elena. The voice continued. "Seamus issued a standing order. Anyone sheltering Elena Vitale loses Kearney protection by sunrise." Claire appeared at the stairwell door behind them, coat already on. "My building," she whispered. "My choice." Ronan shook his head. "Not anymore. They'll keep coming." Elena was already packing the laptop into a canvas bag. "Then we move." "Where?" "Somewhere they don't expect." Ronan's phone vibrated. Brendan's name appeared with one message. "Old Union Print Shop. South Side. No cameras. 2 entrances." Ronan read it once. "We have 1 car, 3 people, and a building Seamus doesn't control." Elena slung the bag over her shoulder. "Sounds luxurious." A fist hammered against the rear door downstairs. Ronan almost smiled. "You really are terrible for my standards. And yet you keep lowering them for me." Another blow shook the bakery door. Claire headed toward the front exit to create a distraction while Ronan opened the apartment's fire escape. Cold metal stung Elena's palms as she climbed down first. Ronan followed, staying close enough to catch her if the ladder slipped, but never once telling her to slow down. They reached the alley as the SUVs moved toward the bakery entrance. Brendan's battered pickup rolled around the corner without headlights. Elena opened the passenger door, then stopped. 3 loyal people? Ronan nodded. For now. She looked toward the men Seamus had sent, then back at the Irish heir who no longer had an army, a title, or a family willing to stand behind him. Then they made a mistake. Ronan climbed in beside her. "Which one?" Elena shut the door as the pickup pulled away. "They left you with the person you were supposed to kill." Elena understood how to beat Seamus when she saw Ronan erase her name from the whiteboard for the 3rd time. The abandoned Union Print Shop smelled of old ink, machine oil, and damp concrete, with rusted presses sleeping beneath dusty tarps and a row of fluorescent tubes buzzing above the office they had turned into headquarters. Ronan stood beside a folding table covered in maps, prepaid phones, and the photographed death list. Every route he had drawn bent around the same objective: keep Elena away from Seamus. She picked up the marker. "Stop." Ronan looked at her. "Stop what?" Elena wrote her name back in the center of the board. "Planning like I'm the thing you have to protect. You are the thing Seamus keeps targeting." "Exactly." Brendan glanced toward the door and quietly found a reason to leave the room. Ronan folded his arms, tattoos showing beneath his rolled sleeves. I already dislike where this is going. Seamus took your authority because you chose me. He threatened Claire because she sheltered me. He burned the safe house after Walsh told him where I was. Every time he wants you to move, what does he use? Ronan's jaw tightened. You. Good. So let him. Ronan took the marker from her hand. No, Elena immediately took another from the tray. You need a larger vocabulary. Not for this. She drew 2 circles beneath her name, Seamus and Vale. They think I froze Black Harbor. They think I still control the accounts. And most importantly, they think you'll destroy your own position the second I'm threatened. So far, that assumption has evidence. Then we make it irresistible. Ronan stared at the board. Behind them, rain struck the tall factory windows in uneven bursts, and an old radiator clanged hard enough to echo through the empty press floor. Elena opened her laptop. 27 Black Harbor accounts remained frozen. 4 more had entered expanded compliance review. At 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, I send a message through the same channel Black Harbor used to contact me. Saying what? That I'm done. Ronan looked at her sharply. Elena continued. I tell them you've lost everything because of me. That you're becoming impossible to control. That I want protection from you before you drag me down with you. They won't believe you. They will if I give them something. Elena placed a small flash drive on the table. Ronan picked it up, but did not plug it in. What's on this? Enough real account architecture to prove I have access. Nothing that lets them restore the network. And what do you ask for? A meeting. Ronan put the drive down. No, Seamus thinks I'm your weakness. He's right. The answer came without hesitation. Elena's fingers stopped over the keyboard. Ronan stepped closer. Don't confuse me admitting that with permission to weaponize it. You weaponized my fear of you for 11 months. And I'll spend longer than that regretting it. His voice dropped. That doesn't mean I let you walk into his hands now. Elena closed the laptop. You still think this plan is about me walking into danger, isn't it? No. It's about making Seamus believe you won't let me. Ronan's expression shifted. Elena pointed toward the building map. I request a public meeting at Vale's campaign hotel. Cameras, donors, security. Somewhere they can't simply make me disappear. You pretend you don't know I'm going. Pretend. Then when Seamus comes for me, he thinks he has leverage over you. Ronan looked at the access routes she had marked. And while he watches me react, he stops watching what I'm doing. Elena tapped the encrypted account dashboard. We trace whichever emergency authorization he uses to prove he can protect me from you. He exposes the layer above Black Harbor himself. Ronan walked away, then back. One mistake, and he takes you. Then don't make one. Elena. She stepped directly in front of him. You said we fight like one. That only works if I'm allowed to be dangerous too. Ronan's eyes stayed on hers for a long moment. Finally, he picked up the flash drive and placed it back in her palm. Public location. I choose the extraction route. You wear a tracker they don't know exists. Elena nodded. Agreed. And if Seamus changes the location? We abort. Ronan held out his hand. Elena took it. Then send the message at 6, he said. She opened the laptop again. Already scheduled. Ronan stared at her. Elena gave him the smallest smile. You were taking too long to fall in line. Elena knew the plan had changed the moment the hotel security guard asked her to leave through the service entrance instead of the lobby. The public meeting had been her condition. Cameras, witnesses, exits. Seamus had agreed to all 3. Now the ballroom behind her was still full of donors and campaign staff, but 2 men in dark coats were waiting beyond the kitchen doors where the smell of roasted coffee and industrial cleaner replaced perfume and champagne. Elena touched the small silver button sewn beneath the collar of her coat. 1 press activated the recorder Claire had hidden inside the lining. 2 presses sent Ronan the emergency signal. She pressed once. Ms. Vitale, one man said. Mr. Kearney is waiting. Which Kearney? Neither answered. Elena smiled without humor. That usually means the unpleasant one. The taller man opened the service door. Cold air rushed inside, carrying diesel fumes and the wet metal smell of the alley. A black SUV idled 15 feet away. Elena stopped. This was the abort point. Ronan had been explicit. If Seamus moved the meeting, she walked back into the hotel. Instead, she glanced at the reflective kitchen window. Across the ballroom, barely visible through 3 layers of glass, Ronan stood near the bar in a dark suit, pretending not to watch her. Their eyes met for less than a second. Elena turned toward the SUV. Fine. The men exchanged a look. One opened the rear door. Elena climbed involuntarily. The locks clicked before the vehicle moved. She counted turns instead of streets. Right. Left. 6 blocks straight. Another right. The interior smelled of leather and stale tobacco, and the heater blew too hot against her ankles. Her tracker remained silent beneath her watchband. Good. Ronan would know she had broken the plan. He would also know she had done it intentionally. 23 minutes later, the SUV descended into an underground garage beneath an unfinished commercial tower near the river. Concrete pillars disappeared into shadow. Portable work lights threw harsh white circles across plastic sheeting and stacks of drywall. Elena was searched before entering the elevator. They took her phone, purse, and watch. One man held up the watch. Tracker. Fitness. He smashed it beneath his shoe anyway. Elena heard plastic crack against concrete. She kept her face still. The tracker had never been inside the watch. It was sewn beneath the heel of her left shoe. The elevator rose to the 9th floor, opening into an unfinished office space sealed with temporary walls. The air smelled of fresh lumber, dust, and cold cement. Seamus stood beside a folding table. Adrian Vale was there too, jacket off, tie loosened, campaign composure stripped away. You came without Ronan, Seamus said. Elena removed her coat slowly. That was the point. You told us he was becoming dangerous. He threw away his family for me. You think I want to be standing beside him when he realizes what that cost? Vale studied her. And the accounts? Elena placed the flash drive on the table. Enough to restore them. Seamus did not reach for it. Enough. You want the rest, I want guarantees. For yourself? For my father. Seamus smiled. Still predictable. Elena let the insult pass. Beneath her collar, the recorder captured every word. You framed me because you knew Ronan would come after me. Seamus's eyes sharpened. Careful. I'm past careful. You needed him angry. You needed Patrick dead, me blamed, and Ronan too busy hunting the wrong person to see what Black Harbor was becoming. Vale moved toward the windows. Seamus stayed still. Elena pushed harder. Was Patrick supposed to die from the beginning, or did he just learn too much? Silence. That silence was worth more than any answer. Elena reached for the drive. Seamus caught her wrist. Leave it. His grip tightened. You came here because you think Ronan will save you if this goes wrong. Elena looked directly at him. No, Seamus frowned. She pressed the hidden switch beneath her collar a second time. Somewhere across Chicago, Ronan's receiver would change from green to red. Elena pulled her wrist free. I came because you think he will. The temporary wall behind her opened, and 3 more men stepped into the room. The elevator doors closed. Every exit disappeared at once. Seamus picked up the flash drive. Then let's see how much of himself Ronan Kearney is willing to lose this time. Ronan abandoned the last rule he had left the second Elena's tracker turned red. He was still inside Vale's campaign hotel when the signal jumped from the ballroom to the service alley, then began moving west through downtown Chicago. Music and donor applause thudded behind the closed doors, but Ronan heard only the receiver vibrating against his palm. Brendan was beside him within seconds. She broke the abort condition. I know. Then she wanted us to follow. Ronan stripped off his tie as he ran toward the stairs. Find the signal. Now. They took a borrowed sedan from the loading dock and followed the tracker toward the river. Cold rain streaked across the windshield, smearing traffic lights into red and gold lines while the heater filled the car with the smell of wet wool and old leather. The signal stopped beneath an unfinished commercial tower. Ronan recognized the building immediately. Vale Development. Brendan slowed. Could be 50 men in there. Ronan opened the door before the car stopped. Then stay outside. That's not a plan. It's the one we have. The underground garage was mostly dark, lit by portable construction lamps and green emergency signs. Ronan found Elena's broken watch near the elevator and crouched beside it. His thumb brushed the shattered plastic. Brendan arrived behind him. Trackers still moving. Ronan looked at the receiver. 9th floor. Elena had anticipated the search. Heel, he said. She hid it in her shoe. They took the stairs. By the 7th floor, Ronan's breathing had turned sharp and controlled, his jacket discarded somewhere below and the tattoos on his forearms exposed beneath rolled sleeves. On 9, 2 men guarded the temporary corridor. Ronan did not charge them. He pulled the fire alarm lever instead. Bells erupted through the building. Red strobes flashed across raw concrete, and magnetic construction doors released automatically. Workers and guards began moving toward exits. Confusion did what force could not. Ronan and Brendan slipped through the evacuation flow. Then Ronan heard Elena's voice through the unfinished wall. If you restore those accounts, every compliance hold will lead directly back to you. Seamus answered. Then you'll fix that too. Ronan stopped. Elena was alive. Close. His hand flattened against the plywood partition. Brendan whispered, we wait until they move her. Ronan shook his head. No. You said yourself we need Seamus talking. That was before he had her. Brendan stared at him. Ronan, if you go through that door now, you burn the whole operation. Ronan looked toward the red light pulsing above the corridor. Then it burns. He kicked the temporary latch free and entered. Every head turned. Elena stood beside the folding table, one shoe missing, Seamus on one side of her and Vale on the other. 3 guards moved immediately. Ronan raised both hands. Nobody needs to make this complicated. Seamus laughed. You came alone? Brendan remained hidden outside. Ronan's eyes stayed on Elena. Are you hurt? No, good. Only then did he look at his uncle. Seamus lifted the flash drive. You threw away your name, your authority, your inheritance. Now you walk into my building unarmed because she pressed a button. Ronan took one step forward. A guard blocked him. Yes. The answer silenced the room. Seamus's smile faded. You're not even going to deny it. Ronan looked at Elena again. No. Her face changed under the harsh construction lights. Seamus pointed at her. She was supposed to be disposable. Ronan's voice dropped. That was your mistake. Your brother dies, and this woman replaces him in a matter of weeks. Ronan moved another step despite the guard. Don't use Patrick to explain something you never understood. Elena held his gaze. The alarms continued hammering through the concrete floor. Vale backed toward the elevator, suddenly aware the building was evacuating around them. Ronan reached Elena before anyone decided whether stopping him was worth the witnesses pouring down nearby stairs. He took her hand openly. Not strategically, not secretly. Seamus watched their fingers lock together. You've made her your weakness. Ronan turned Elena toward the exit. No, he looked back once. You made her the reason I finally stopped being yours. Elena stopped at the stairwell door instead of following Ronan down. The fire alarm hammered through the unfinished tower, red strobes flashing over raw concrete, while cold air pushed through plastic sheeting and carried the smell of sawdust, electrical dust, and rain from the open construction floors. Ronan felt her hand leave his and turned. Elena. She was already looking past him. Seamus had not followed the evacuation route. He stood 20 yards away beside the folding table, clutching the flash drive as Vale disappeared toward the elevators with the remaining guards. He stayed for the drive, Elena said. Ronan understood immediately. We leave. No, we got what we came for. Not yet. Elena crossed back into the office space. Ronan caught up beside her, jaw tight. You were captured 10 minutes ago. And he still thinks that means I'm the weaker person in the room. Seamus watched them approach. You two really are determined to make every bad decision together. Elena took the laptop from the abandoned table and opened it beneath a portable work light. Give me the drive. Seamus smiled. Or Black Harbor dies before sunrise. He held the drive between 2 fingers. You told us this restores access. I told you it contains enough architecture to restore access. Elena typed quickly. I never said you could use it without me. Ronan stayed beside her, scanning the temporary walls and open stairwell. Elena opened the compliance dashboard. 30 accounts now showed frozen. A countdown beneath the master review displayed 43 minutes. Seamus looked at the screen. Fix it. Tell Ronan why Patrick had to die. The alarm continued pounding overhead. Seamus's expression changed. You think this is negotiation? No. Negotiation means both sides have something the other wants. Elena turned the laptop toward him. You have 43 minutes before those accounts enter external review. I'm the only person here who can stop it. Seamus stepped closer. Ronan immediately moved between them. Elena touched Ronan's arm. Let him talk. Patrick was careless, Seamus said. Ronan's shoulders went rigid. Careless how? He thought finding a few payments made him righteous. That isn't an answer. Seamus looked at his nephew. He was going to expose Black Harbor. Ronan's voice dropped. So you killed him. I protected what this family built. The words came too easily. Elena pressed one key beneath the edge of the laptop. The small recorder hidden in her coat began a second backup. Protected it from Patrick? She asked. Seamus's mouth tightened. Patrick was going to hand everything to a reporter. He refused every warning. Ronan stepped forward. Who gave the order? Does it matter? To me. Seamus laughed once. You still need someone else to carry your guilt? Fine. I gave the order. Ronan stopped moving. The fire alarm seemed suddenly distant beneath the silence between them. Seamus continued, almost relieved to finally say it aloud. Patrick had become a liability. He knew about Vale. He knew how the city money moved. He knew enough to destroy years of work, and he was too stubborn to understand what loyalty required. Ronan's hands curled at his sides. Elena moved closer to him, not touching him yet. And me? She asked. Seamus looked at her. You were useful. Because Ronan would believe I betrayed Patrick. Because grief made him simple. Ronan's face went still. Seamus gestured toward him. We gave him your name, your records, your trail. We knew exactly what he would do. Elena looked at Ronan. Weeks ago, those words might have broken whatever existed between them. Now Ronan looked only at Seamus. You used my brother's death to turn me into your weapon. Seamus shrugged. And you were excellent at it. Ronan took one step forward, then stopped when Elena caught his hand. He looked down at their joined fingers. The recorder beneath her coat was still running. Elena faced Seamus again. Say it clearly. Seamus's eyes narrowed. Say what? Who ordered Patrick Kearney killed? Ronan's grip tightened around Elena's hand. Seamus stared at both of them, then answered with contemptuous certainty. I did. Elena waited until Seamus said, I did, before she lifted her hand from Ronan's and pressed the final switch beneath her coat. The recorder vibrated once against her ribs. Then the transmission went live. A green icon appeared on the laptop screen, followed by 6 destinations lighting up one after another. Claire Donnelly, 2 investigative reporters, a federal financial crimes contact, Sophia's Bellandi channel, and the private number Ronan had memorized for his father. Seamus saw the screen. His face changed. What did you do? Elena turned the laptop toward him. Made sure Ronan wasn't the only person who heard you. The fire alarm still hammered through the unfinished floor, red strobes washing the concrete walls while rain rattled against plastic-covered windows. Somewhere below, evacuation doors slammed and boots echoed through the stairwells. Seamus lunged for the computer. Ronan stepped between them. Don't. Seamus stopped inches from him. You think this changes anything? Elena glanced at the upload counter. 42%. It already has. Seamus reached for his phone. No service. The building's emergency system had overloaded the internal network. He threw it onto the folding table. Kill the transmission. I can't. You built it. Which is why I made sure I couldn't stop it once it started. Ronan looked at her. Even now, beneath harsh work lights and the pulsing alarm, the corner of his mouth almost moved. You planned that too? I'm learning from your trust issues. The upload reached 61%. Then the elevator doors opened. Adrian Vale stepped out with 2 security men, his campaign jacket gone, his white shirt damp at the collar. Seamus, the lobby is full of press. His eyes found Elena. What did she send? Everything, Seamus said. Vale crossed toward the laptop. Ronan moved with him. Back up. You have no authority here anymore. Good thing I'm not asking as a Kearney. Vale stopped. The words landed differently now. Ronan had no card, no cruise, no inheritance behind him. Yet he stood between Elena and 3 men as if nothing important had actually been taken from him. Elena checked the screen. 78%. Her burner phone began vibrating on the table. Claire. Then another call. Unknown. Then another. Across Chicago, people were hearing Seamus admit he ordered Patrick's death and used Elena as bait to turn Ronan into the weapon. Vale looked toward the stairwell. We leave. Seamus did not move. And abandon everything. Everything is already outside this building. The upload hit 93%. One of Vale's men reached for the laptop. Elena snatched it away and backed toward a construction partition. Ronan intercepted the guard before he reached her, blocking him with his shoulder and forcing him back into the open office without throwing a punch. Enough. The guard hesitated. Nobody wanted to be caught on emergency cameras attacking people while reporters gathered downstairs. 100% flashed across Elena's screen. Transmission complete. Seamus stared at it. His power did not disappear dramatically. It vanished through notifications. Ronan's phone buzzed first. His father. I heard it. Sophia's message followed. Truce holds. Claire sent only 3 words. It's everywhere. Then Vale's campaign phone began ringing. He looked at the caller ID and went pale. The election board. Seamus turned toward Elena. You destroyed everything. No, she said. You finally said out loud what you built it on. A loud crack sounded above them. Everyone looked up. The emergency evacuation had shut down part of the construction power, and one suspended work light swung loose from its temporary mount. Ronan saw it moving toward Elena before she did. Elena. He crossed the space, but the cable snapped first. She tried to step away, caught her heel against exposed conduit, and went down hard as the metal fixture crashed beside her. Ronan reached her instantly. Behind him, Seamus bolted toward the stairwell. Ronan looked once at the man who had ordered Patrick's death, then back at Elena lying against the concrete, one hand pressed to her side. For the first time, Seamus was running from him. And for the first time, Ronan did not immediately follow. Ronan had 3 seconds to choose between the man who killed his brother and the woman lying at his feet. Seamus was already halfway to the stairwell, shoes striking raw concrete beneath the pounding fire alarm, while Elena tried to push herself upright beside the fallen work light. Dust hung in the air like smoke, sharp with the smell of hot metal and wet cement. Ronan looked toward the stairwell. Seamus looked back once. For 11 months, that would have been enough. Ronan would have followed anger anywhere. Go, Elena said through a tight breath. He's getting away. Ronan dropped beside her instead. Can you move? Ronan, answer me. She pressed one hand against her ribs and tested her left leg. Nothing feels broken. A siren wailed somewhere below as emergency crews reached the building. Footsteps thundered down the stairwell, Seamus disappearing floor by floor. Elena caught Ronan's sleeve. Patrick deserved a brother who answered the phone. Ronan slid one arm behind her shoulders. I'm done making the same mistake twice. Elena stared at him. You may never get another chance. Then I don't. He helped her stand. Pain folded her briefly against him, and Ronan's hand tightened at her back. Behind them, Vale was arguing into his phone, trying to distance himself from the recording already spreading across Chicago. None of it mattered to Ronan in that moment. He guided Elena toward the open stairwell on the opposite side of the floor. Slowly. You're letting Seamus walk. I'm getting you out. That is not the same thing. Ronan stopped on the landing. Red emergency lights swept across his face every 2 seconds. Yes, it is. Elena went quiet. He looked at her with none of the calculation she had once seen in her apartment. He built my whole life around the idea that revenge was loyalty. He used Patrick to point me at you, and I let him. Ronan's jaw tightened. If I leave you here to chase him now, he still gets to decide what matters to me. Elena's fingers curled into the front of his shirt. Below them, the building lobby erupted with noise, reporters shouting, alarms pulsing, security doors opening. Ronan carried more of her weight as they descended. On the 6th floor, his phone buzzed. His father, then Claire, then an unknown number. He ignored all 3. Your phone, Elena said. Later. What if they found Seamus? Later. On the 4th floor, she stopped. Put me down. You're walking. Barely. Still counts. Ronan. He looked at her. Elena touched his face with one hand, dust streaking across his cheek. You chose me. He did not answer immediately. The old Ronan would have hidden behind strategy, duty, or guilt. This one seemed too tired for any of them. Yes. The word was almost lost beneath the alarm. Not because you were innocent. Not because Patrick was wronged. Not because I owe you protection. His hand closed gently around hers. Because when I saw you on that floor and saw Seamus running, I knew which loss I couldn't survive. Elena's expression changed. Ronan lifted her hand from his face and held it against his chest. He can run. They continued downward. When they reached the lobby, camera flashes burst through the glass doors, white and relentless. Claire pushed through the crowd toward them while federal agents entered from the street. Across the plaza, police lights reflected blue and red across the rain. One officer approached Ronan. Seamus Kearney? Ronan glanced back at the stairwell. He went down the east side. The officer nodded and moved away. Elena looked at Ronan. That's all. That's all. Outside, cold rain touched their faces. Ronan took off his coat and wrapped it around Elena's shoulders. She leaned against him beneath the hotel awning while sirens moved through downtown Chicago. Somewhere in the city, Seamus was still running. For the first time in Ronan's life, revenge was not the thing pulling him forward. Elena was. 3 months after Ronan Kearney chose Elena over revenge, the last Black Harbor account was finally closed. Snow dusted the Chicago River Walk in thin white lines, and morning light reflected from the glass towers while Elena stood inside a renovated office above the old Union print shop, listening to the radiator knock beneath the windows. Fresh coffee steamed beside her laptop. On the screen, the final compliance notice changed from pending to terminated. "That's it," she said. Ronan came up behind her, sleeves rolled to his elbows, black and gray tattoos covering his forearms where expensive cuffs once hid them. "All of it. Every shell company we could trace. Every linked account." Elena closed the laptop. Black Harbor had collapsed after Seamus's confession reached reporters, investigators, and the families he had manipulated. Adrian Vale withdrew from the mayoral race before Election Day and was later charged in the financial investigation that followed. Seamus made it less than 6 hours after fleeing the tower before federal agents found him at a private airfield outside Chicago. This time Ronan had not chased him. He had stayed beside Elena until a doctor cleared her bruised ribs, then sat in a hospital chair all night pretending he was only there because she needed someone to drive her home. Marco had been moved back into his house weeks later, after replacing the broken windows and installing more locks than Elena considered reasonable. Ronan had paid for them. Marco had complained about that too. Some things had survived the war perfectly intact. The Kearney organization had changed more slowly. Declan stepped away after the investigation exposed how much had happened under his name. Several captains left with him. Others came to Ronan voluntarily, not because he inherited them, but because they wanted the rules he offered. No Black Harbor, no political ownership, no using civilians as leverage, no loyalty bought through fear. Ronan never recovered the access card he had thrown through the estate gate. He never asked for another. Elena looked around the office they now shared. 2 desks, 1 locked records room, 1 coffee machine Ronan had been forbidden to operate after destroying the first one. "You're staring," she said. "I'm thinking. Dangerous." Ronan leaned against her desk. "I've been trying to figure out when this happened." "When what happened?" His eyes moved from her laptop to the small scar on her wrist where he had once grabbed her in the apartment that started everything. "When I stopped imagining my future as something I had to defend and started imagining you in it." Elena went still. Outside, a train rumbled across the river, its steel wheels humming beneath the quiet office. "That sounds suspiciously permanent." "It is." She folded her arms. "You once broke into my apartment. I remember. Threatened me. Frequently. Kidnapped me. Technically." "Do not say technically." The corner of his mouth lifted. Elena tried not to let hers follow. Ronan reached into his coat, and for a fleeting second she remembered the first night, his hand entering that same jacket while she wondered whether he was reaching for a weapon. This time he removed only an old brass key, her apartment key, the one he had held between 2 fingers while sitting in her living room, certain she would not survive the night. He placed it in her palm. "I kept it because it reminded me of the worst decision I ever made." Elena closed her fingers around it. "And now," Ronan took her other hand, "now I want to ask before I enter your life. No command, no ultimatum, no bargain." Elena stepped closer. That almost sounded romantic. "I'm still learning." Slowly, painfully. She smiled, and this time he did too. Ronan lifted her hand to his chest, over the stag Patrick had drawn and the heart Elena had once believed belonged only to duty, guilt, and revenge. "I love you," he said. Simple, certain. Elena looked at the man who had lost his inheritance rather than surrender her, walked away from vengeance to carry her out of danger, and rebuilt his world without asking her to become smaller inside it. "Good," she said, curling her fingers into his shirt. "Because I love you too." Ronan kissed her forehead, then rested his against hers while snow drifted beyond the windows and Chicago moved on below them. He had entered her life believing her death would set everything right. He ended up discovering that loving her was the first choice that ever did.